One more basic video and we are talking all about Gianduja. In this video I'm going to show you 4 flavors and 3 methods, from traditional to super quick and maximum flavor. Also, because I love food stories, I will quickly talk through the history of Gianduja. By the end, you will know how to make Gianduja for spreads, bonbon fillings and bars, how to adjust it for dark milk and white chocolate, and how to fix any issues with your Gianduja. Gianduja, pronounced as Gianduja, not a Gianduja, is a smooth mixture of chocolate, ground nuts and sugar, usually with a high percentage of hazelnut. It was first developed in Turin in northern Italy, as chocolatiers started blending chocolate with a hazelnut paste. Today, we use wort Gianduja for many textures, from firm blocks you can cut to soft spread that look almost like ganache. The classic version is made with about 30% hazelnut paste, but in practice you can adjust the percentage to make it more or less nutty and more or less sweet. Why Gianduja was created? The story of Gianduja goes back to the time of Napoleon and the cocoa shortages in Europe. Because of blockades and high import taxes, cocoa beans became expensive and hard to get, especially for the chocolatier in Turin. To stretch the limited cocoa they had, some very clever pastry chefs started mixing their chocolate with a finely ground local hazelnut. This new mixture turned out to be delicious, creamy, nutty and much more affordable, and that is how Gianduja was born. The name Gianduja comes from a traditional carnival and theater character from the region around Turin in Piedmont. Over time, that name became linked not just to the character but also to the local chocolate hazelnut sweets and the little boat-shaped Giandujotti. Piedmont is famous for its hazelnuts. And wine, of course, Barolo, Barbaresco, made from Nebbiolo grape that has its name because of the fog during the harvest, but that's another story. Let's back to the hazelnuts, especially the PGI Piedmont hazelnuts from the Lan area, often called some of the best in the world for their sweet, buttery flavor. Those hazelnuts are a huge part of why Italian Gianduja tastes so special. The quality of the nut really comes through in the final chocolate. The first time I really discovered Gianduja when I was traveling in north of Italy. I've spent a week in Turin enjoying city, culture and local food. I had tasted chocolate hazelnut spreads before, but this was different. It was so silky, so nutty, and it just melted on the tongue. And once you try that, it completely changed how you think about chocolate and nut together. That trip really made me want to learn how to make Gianduja properly at home. So in this video I'm going to show you the basic technique so you can recreate that flavor in your own kitchen. Let's start with the traditional method. Preheat the oven to 160 degrees fan-forced oven, which is 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Spread the walnuts in a single layer on a tray. Toast for about 10 minutes, just until lightly roasted, just like this. If you roast too much, they will lose flavor and can become a bit bitter. This is especially true for any soft nuts, like pistachios and coconut. Let the nuts cool down until just warm. Then place them in a food processor with the icing sugar and salt. Blitz until you have a smooth nut paste. Then add the melted chocolate and mix with the nut paste until fully combined. Alternatively, as I'm going to do, you can add the chocolate to the warm nut paste and keep blitzing until the chocolate has melted and the mixture is smooth. While you're blitzing, the praline paste inside will become quite warm. That's why it would be very easy to melt the chocolate inside. For this reason, I'm not melting my chocolate because I know that the temperature of the spread inside and the rotation of the blade will eventually melt the chocolate. Pour the Gianduja into your desired shape, silicone mold, confectionery frame or plastic container, depending on how you plan to use it. So that is the classic dark chocolate Gianduja, very versatile, perfect for slabs, filling or as a spread. Next, the fastest method, using ready-made nut butter. This is perfect when you want Gianduja in minutes. Combine the melted milk chocolate and peanut butter. Mix with a spatula until completely smooth and combined. This quick gianduja can be made with a various number of nut or seed butters. Depending on the desired consistency and quality of your chocolate, you can make it softer and use it as a spread when using less chocolate or your chocolate cocoa butter content is low, or you can add more chocolate to have it firmer if you're aiming for a slab consistency. Recipe number 3, maximum flavor gianduja. This method uses praline paste and chocolate. You can use the classic 50% sugar praline or reduced sugar praline like the one I have shared before. A link to that recipe is on your screen now and in the description. If you already have a praline paste, simply melt the chocolate and mix it into the praline until smooth. If you are making the praline from scratch, first process the nuts and caramelize sugar until you have a smooth paste, then add the chocolate into the food processor and blitz just until the chocolate has melted and the texture is uniform. For this recipe I prefer the mixture of milk chocolate and dark chocolate. It gives me more balanced flavor. Pour the gianduja into a silicone mold, confectionery frame or a container, depending on how you want to use it. This version has the deepest flavor. The caramelized sugar and long grinding of the praline gives a very intense nutty taste. It is perfect for bonbon filling, layered bars or cutting into small pieces to dip into chocolate. You don't have to stick to dark or milk chocolate for gianduja, you can make it even white chocolate. When you use white chocolate, it can easily become too sweet and too soft. So I slightly reduce the sugar and add cocoa butter to keep it firm. Toast the pistachios or any nuts you prefer until fragrant. Let them cool until they are just warm. Add the nuts, melted cocoa butter and icing sugar into a food processor and blitz it into a smooth paste. Add salt flakes. Add the white chocolate and blitz again just until the chocolate has melted and the mixture is smooth. If you are using pre-made pistachio praline paste, simply melt the white chocolate and cocoa butter and mix until combined. General gianduja notes. It is best to use confectioner sugar or icing sugar, but not soft icing mixture, that one contains cornstarch, because it will grind much faster than granulated sugar. For gianduja, the chocolate has to be melted, unless you use food processor. The ideal mixing temperature for the chocolate is about 31 to 35 degrees Celsius, that is 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. If the chocolate is too cold or too thick, when you mix it with the nut paste, the mass may not bind together properly and it can crumble. Keep in mind the temperature of the nut paste or praline too. If it is too cold, it will cool the chocolate too quickly, which can affect the texture same way as cold chocolate. If needed, gently warm up nut paste to around 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, which is 68 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, before mixing with the chocolate. A quick note about equipment. Always use a strong, heavy-duty food processor when making nut paste. Some more affordable food processors can do it as well, but they must clearly state in the manual that they can handle nut paste. If your food processor struggles or overheats, work in shorter bursts and smaller batches. Let us talk storage, because gianduja is actually a very stable product. Its water activity is below 0.6, which means it is a low moisture food and not a good environment for most microbes. Because of that, gianduja has a best before date rather than a strict use by date. It is safer to consume even after 1 year, but the flavor will slowly fade. To extend shelf life, store gianduja in an airtight container or wrapped in a cling film or in a vacuum bag. Exposure to oxygen and light will make it lose flavor much faster, but general recommendation: consume within about 3 months for best flavor. Ideally store it at around 14 degrees Celsius, which is about 57 degrees Fahrenheit. Finally, do we need to temper the chocolate for gianduja? I have tested gianduja made with a tempered chocolate and with untempered chocolate, and the result was the same in terms of texture. So I personally do not temper the chocolate before mixing it into the nut paste. What I do instead is control the temperature. Once the chocolate is mixed with the praline or nut butter, the final temperature is usually around 30 degrees Celsius, about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. If it goes higher than that, you can cool it down on a marble bench to about 25 degrees Celsius, roughly 77 degrees Fahrenheit. If you pour gianduja when it is around 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, or higher. Then when it sets, you might see white streaks or patches on the surface. This is a fat migration of fat bloom. It does not really affect the texture, only the visual appearance. Because everyone has access to the different quality chocolate, is going to use different nuts or seed paste, and is going to store Gianduja at different temperatures and also use it as a chocolate block, a spread or filling. Here are some guidance notes. What I shared in this video works for me and for my purposes. I keep my chocolate and confectioner at 40 degrees Celsius, 57 degrees Fahrenheit in the fridge, and I use high quality Korochi chocolate. Using the recipe as it is will work for you too, but your chocolate might have a little bit less cocoa butter, your nut paste might have more or less fat, you might want it softer or firmer, and your room temperature might be cooler or warmer. In this case, try the provided recipe first. If it is not the texture you are aiming for, gently melt it in the microwave or over water bath. The melting temperature would be around 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you can add more chocolate to make it firmer. Start with the 10% of the total mass. Melt it and mix it in. Let it set at room temperature or in the fridge, and repeat if needed. You can use cocoa butter instead of chocolate if you would like to add firmness without adding sweetness. If your Gianduja is too firm, melt it and mix in more nut paste. Use about 10% praline paste if you want more spreadable texture, or if you prefer a less sweet option, use 100% nut or seed paste instead. I'm going to share a few treats ideas using Gianduja and some of the previous basic recipes, so you will have even more ideas for how to use it. So that is 4 Gianduja recipes and 3 different methods. Traditional, quick nut butter, maximum flavor with the praline, and even a white chocolate version. You can now choose the method that fits your time and your equipment, and the flavor profile you like the most. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments which Gianduja you are going to try first and what you want to see next in the basic recipes.